Hi everyone, welcome to Wandering DMs. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dan, and today on Wandering DMs, we have very special guest, Mr. Zach Glazar of Necromancer Games, and he's here to talk about Whisper and Venom, his classic mega campaign that he's been working on for over 10 years. Zach, thank you so much for joining us kind of early Arizona time today.
No, hey, you're welcome. And it isn't that bad. It was 10 o'clock. I think I can, I forgive you.
Some of us are more night owls than others. So personally, I would be quite offended if someone asked me to show up this early. So you're very gracious. So tell us about Whisper and Venom. Probably some of our viewers know what that is, but if someone had never heard of that before, what would you say about it?
Well, I would imagine most of them have not heard of it before. And you said I've been working on it 10 years, sort of. What Whisper and Venom was something I wrote back in 2010 because I was living in San Francisco and I was on a bus and I was bored. And so I pulled my phone and typed in vintage Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't know if you guys remember, there's a blog called Grognardia that was real popular. That was all about the original stuff. I'm like, my God, they play White Plume Mountain still? Jesus Christ! I was like absolutely stunned. I was stunned into heresy, right? So after swearing and being amazed on a bus and probably embarrassing myself because I got so viscerally excited, I just didn't know people cared about that stuff anymore. I had no idea that was being played, and that was such an important part of my life. The early edition stuff like the PX and especially the AD&D 1E stuff was just, I had the books all the time. I cared about it so much, and I got in trouble in second grade because I had Eldritch Wizardry and had the lady getting sacrificed to the front cover. I got hauled in the principal's office, so Tim Kask owes me for that hour. Anyway, I've told him this too, so I'm not embarrassed. Tim Kask owes me for that hour I spent there and lost my $6 book. But anyways, yeah, because I mind my own business. I'm like, what's the matter? Leave me alone, you teacher. Like, go away. It wasn't my teacher, it was another one, right? So, and then I didn't see the problem with it. Hey man, it was just rule book. No, but it was D&D was very important to me in a lot of ways, and I was just like in a transition part of my life, and I'm like, I'm going to make a 16-page module, and it's going to be given away free on dragonsfoot.org or whatever. Well, what I'm making was this. It's a box set. It's had 97 individual pieces, including miniatures and cards. I think I have a set of cards here, but cards, dice, 2 books, and poster maps, and a couple different ways. I mean, I was kind of like one of those cooked order restaurants. Like if you want a hardcover, I made one. If you want one that looked like an old school AD&D module, made one of those too. But it's a basic. I made a campaign like one I wanted to play and buy. I live in a small town, same one I lived in when I was growing up. All the places I lived, I came back, right? But it's a small town I live in. Didn't have any stuff. We had one place sold 3 modules. They're always X1, right? And they would sell miniatures, but they're always the same 5, right? All same 5 Grenadier Dragon, and then 1 box set Dragon and 6 elves that were actually Plains Indians that were repurposed by all raw powers that write terrible stuff. Well, I always thought, and the bigger stores in Phoenix, Arizona, where I would go occasionally, which I couldn't drive and I couldn't do anything without, dragging my parents with me halfway across a giant metropolis looking for that perfect figurine, right? So it was out. So when I decided to make mine, I wanted to have it so you could have all the important figures included. And I just thought that was the way you should do it because Kickstarter had just become a thing. I decided to go ahead and take my 16-page idea and make it explode. And I was pretty successful in the Kickstarter for the time, especially. I wasn't there in the first big wave of excitement. I was in the second kind of wave after. We had a couple failures on Kickstarter before this came up, so I think it made 22,000, I think, which was really respectable. I think it would have made 30 had it not been for really large failures immediately before mine, right? But I was real proud of it. It did well. Jeff D did the cover of it. It just was awesome. It's what I want to do. And I thought, well, that would be it. Yay me. I did my thing, and I should move on and grow up and get a real job. And that didn't happen. I did a second Kickstarter for a game called Death and Taxes, which is very similar in terms of presentation. It was a box set and miniatures and everything else, but it was a lot different of a kind of adventure. It was much more. It had a lot of politics in it that were nothing to do with actual politics. Like here, it had to do a lot with government, anarchy, evil, nature of evil, corruption, and stuff. So it was a different kind of thing, and I was real proud of that too. But halfway through it, the owner of Necromancer Games, the principal owner, Necromancer Frog God, invited me to join them as a business partner. And okay, sure. I didn't know what to expect, but I was having a good time doing it. I made a little bit of money, not a lot, but I worked a lot of hours for sure. And so that's how we get. So I came to Frog God, but when I came, Whisper and Venom kind of came with me, but nothing had been done with it for 8 years. I mean, I thought about it. Occasionally, I would run it, but it was kind of my baby. We decided to redo it because I was me then, who had never produced anything. I mean, I was lucky. I got nominated for a couple of Emmy Awards. One of them was for like Best Production Values, which is the first book I ever laid out, right? And nobody would let me near InDesign now. I mean, I know how to use InDesign, but that does not make you good at it. I'm living proof of that, right? But I did a nice enough job, I guess, where they recognized it, and that was real nice of them, right? But I now have access to people who are real professionals in all categories. So it's not just Zach making the best, craft project ever, right? I now have access to, we have a printer in Hong Kong, and we have other writers who can help, read it, can help contribute if we need to get that far. We have our books are awesome. They're stitched in 16 sheets, with library bound and stitched, and just beautiful books on the 98 GSM paper, just really well done. And we have artists that are just amazing, right? And I hired Jeff D. and Lloyd Metcalf did a great job for me, but this is like a whole nother level of 9 artists that all do color art, and it's all amazing. That wasn't possible before. And so this is kind of like, and it was never in 5e because it predated 5e. So I'm, starting to date myself here, but it predated 5e by a good couple of years. And it was never obviously in OSC before because it predated that by a lot longer. But this is our first effort. And it's taken a lot of effort to do it right. First attempt to make a full adventure of ours into the OSC system, which is all spreads on a page, bullet points and all the beautiful prose I was so damn proud of. And Whisper Venom is all going to be pared back a lot and made sure that it fits what they care about in OSC, because I don't care about my words that much anymore. They were more special before. I don't remember most of my words anymore. And whatever it was, it hurt my feelings when I cut it back. Doesn't matter because I can't remember what it was I cut. So whatever it wasn't that good. That's what I tell myself. And with OSC, we're just, that's a big change. And this is going to be a big change between what you see for our old school system stuff and what you see for our 5e stuff. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be different. We're going to do A5 size, which is a smaller digest type size for the OSC one. So it's going to be longer page count, different layout, maybe different layout artist for each, depending on the time we've got. I mean, so it's quite the thing. And so I'm real proud of it. It's not super long, but it's got a little setting. It's designed to be useful in any campaign because it's remote. It has, the only politics are micro. There are 3 little towns. So I cared a lot about things like it being natural feeling, even though it's full of fairies and elves and everything. It had to feel like someplace that you would recognize otherwise. So I cared a lot about the economic setup of it. It's a small area. It's really depopulated, but it's got 3 towns. 3 towns have like a triangle type trade. It revolves around, what do you think? Booze. Booze and weapons. And grain. Because that's what matters when you're in a remote area that's dangerous. You care about those things because that's how you store grain. That's how you do all these things that matter. So, I tried to make it amusing, and there's a whole town of dwarves, but they're lazy because they live off their ancestors. They make a machine that sounds like they're making stuff, but they're actually making nothing. But they're selling through the stock, right? Selling through the seed corn. But there's happen to be halberds, right? But the point being that that's a flaw that they have, and there's a whole town full of civilized goblins that they make a kind of basically a drug combination with alcohol using berries that are indentured. It's hard to explain, but they're unique little towns, but their economics make sense, and their people are flawed. there's no real good guys or bad guys. They're people. So I mean, it was important to me that the NPCs be partially entertaining, useful in the campaign, but also be the kind of people that you would recognize as they're smart, they have flaws, they're good husbands, but they're terrible businessmen. They're great drinkers, but they're terrible preachers. There's a temple, but they don't talk about the religion very often because I want it to be transferable. I want it to be played, and much to my shock, it was. I mean, I sold 250 box sets. That's 300 box sets got made. I think I made 300. I mean, I'm out. The one I held up that's it in my house. And we sold through all those, and then I sold a number of the books, a number of the special just module versions of it. It was a much larger phenomenon than I expected in my life. I expected to sell probably 100 copies and box with some dice, and I was able to make it the way I wanted to. And now we're doing it again. I'm able to kind of make it a little more. I think the OSC version is going to be very much like I would have played it when I was younger. So that's kind of an attraction to me. That's going to be kind of cool. The 5e version, I think it was made for a 5e version in many ways because he was overly wordy, like me right now, right? It was overly wordy, and it was. It has all the kind of stuff you can use in 5e to really make it layout look good, and just because of the way I decided that, and just by accident. So there's going to be 2 cool versions. So I'm excited about it. I think it's fun.
Great. You're bringing back a lot of you're bringing back a lot of fond memories from the first edition era for me. It started with we love the Grognardia blog ourselves, and we have James Malajewski, who's the author, on at least once a year. I think we've had him on a couple of times now, so we love having James on as a guest here, and he's a great friend of the show. I remember I love the fact that Tim Gask owes you a copy of Eldritch Wizardry.
It gives me that in 2 hours of my life back, right? Because those 2 hours were long. I'm assure you right now.
Right.
Long, sitting in an principal's office when they explained to my mom why it is that, why I shouldn't have this book. She was already horrified, right? But now she does some of our shipping. So I win.
So you're going to get me to confess to a story that I don't think I've ever told anybody. Is I was at some point I got a gift. I was owed a gift, right? So my dad takes me into the one hobby shop that has 3 boxes of miniatures in our mall in a rural area, and I'm going to get the color version of Vault of the Drow, right? Color version of Vault of the Drow. Now on the front, if anybody. The front, you've got the high priestess, and she's got the tentacle wand, and they're in a fight. But if you flip it over, the back cover has a very suggestive illustration of a succubus who's basically naked, but just strategically blocking the naughty bits, right? And so this is what I want. My dad's going to buy it for me. We bring it up to the counter, and with my dad and the shopkeeper, I'm just like, don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. Don't flip it over. Don't look at the back. Don't look at the back.
Having a monster manual at school and being worried that the teacher flips through it, come by, because they were big. They look like textbooks. They weren't. You could get interest in them, right? Well, sometimes it'd be the wrong interest, right? So,
yeah. Yep, and there were the deities and demigods. My cousins actually did get, I had to actually take custody of some of those books because actually they became prohibited at some point in my cousin's household.
I had a friend that was nearby me and wasn't growing up in Flagstaff. I got the phone call late one night with the whispers. His mom had thrown it all out, so we had to recon it, going out 11 o'clock at night, 9-year-old kids had to go out and walk through town and Go grab a couple copies of Holmes box set that was tossed in the trash, and his DDG. I had all that stuff forever because my mom actually tossed it out. Was pissed.
Wow.
Because I had a lot of stuff that's probably worth a lot of money now, right? I have since rebought it all. Right, but it is,
yeah.
It doesn't have my the stains. This is where I spilled tab on it.
yeah. That was always my issue for sure. I was no dramatic, seizure stories for me, but plenty of just I was not good with my things as a child. I just, did not respect the objects I owned.
I used it so much. I mean, when Unearthed Arcana came and it had terrible binding, my heart broke. I mean, and I didn't realize I grew up to care about that so much that if I had terrible binding in our books, my heart would break. So, I mean, some things I guess don't change. And the Unearthed Arcana was a valuable lesson in why we do pay more for binding. I mean, just, hey man, who knew I've been training my whole life to be peak me right now to care about binding and talk about Unearthed Arcana, but I
am. That's totally true. So you mentioned White Plume Mountain. Like, what other, like, were there I wanted to ask about, like, what got you to be, engage, connect the miniatures so closely to your adventure? Because I feel like that's something that D&D goes through cycles with, right? Like, so, there was wargaming, and then Gygax says, I started D&D, and I specifically got away from all the miniatures. And then, then they started to come back, and people go back to Theater of the Mind. How do you feel about that whole cycle about, like, we're obsessed, and then we're not, and we're obsessed again?
Well, mostly I'm bemused because I can't paint. Okay, so I have a lot of nice painted miniatures, so I hired somebody to do it. It's when you're old enough, like some people have a lawn guy. My boss has a wine guy. I got a painting guy, right? And he kindly will paint my stuff because I cannot do it, right? But I couldn't afford them when I was young. They looked attractive. The hobby store would have a display case even then that you walk in and see guys who could paint these obviously poisonous that we would all, got to get the sword straight. So stick the lead in your mouth and bend the sword, get a tooth. But I had some of the Ralph Arthur gold boxes, right? As opposed to the awesome Strategic Simulations gold boxes for the Apple II. That's a whole different gold box. So you're clear. It's an important delineation. Trust me, I have questions of both. But the gold box miniatures, I had the Dens of the Swamp and like the Henchman box, like two of the worst ones to have that for applicability anywhere. Like, well, I can play Salt Marsh, goddammit, and I'm ready. But no one ever played that one. Right? but I had the miniatures. But it was never a hugely important part of our play because I didn't have them growing up. I mean, I wanted them. I'm not even sure what I would have done. We used them mostly just to set marching order, and occasionally we would use the same 12 enemies. That's what we had. So this goblin looks like Demogorgon. That's just the way it is, But we would, kind of set up combat. We wouldn't have a huge terrain. We didn't know where to put it. I could just imagine me telling my mom I needed this room full time to make a dungeon. If I had Dwarven Forge back then, there is zero chance that I could display it. Like if I had it now, I'm married, and she would just think that that's a really useless. I mean, bad enough. What I got here, you picture if I had a whole room full of terrain, I don't know where to store it. I mean, I got Far God books here. So.
One of our online friends, I'll just say I'm so totally right in the same wheelhouse with all that, Zach. One of our online friends, Lord Gasumba, who does a great show Sunday nights on Twitch, who's had us. So he lives in New Jersey, and he's got a huge house, and his whole basement is totally dedicated to all of his miniatures and setups. And I'm so jealous. I'm so wildly jealous. Me living here in Brooklyn, I don't have that large a place. And I'm just like wildly jealous of like having an entire furnished basement dedicated to that. I'm like, that would be the best. But you and I don't have that.
No, we don't. And I assure you, is he married? I just want to, because
he is. He is.
His wife should be. The beginning of the D&D Demigods when they talk about ascension, right? His wife deserves some attention. She's the avatar of a goddess, that's for sure.
I have a theory. It's a bit like owning a pool. You don't necessarily want to be the guy who owns all the miniatures and terrain, but you want to know that guy. You want him in your gaming group so you can go over to his place.
No, I collected the Wizards of the Coast 5th edition figurines for a while, so I got a hand. And I liked them, but I didn't like the card collecting aspect of which one will I get today. I thought I'd rather just pay for the whole bunch of them. Then I saw how much they were. I'm like, I don't play much at home because I don't really have a home group because I live in a town of like 12,000 people. and so I'm lucky to get one game of Dark Tower in a year. Right? I do go to a lot of cons. I'm not carrying my miniatures with me, so
yeah.
So for what it's worth, so we are big fans of Dark Tower, right? So we played on the stream, and it was 2 days ago that Paul was pointing me to their current Kickstarter and was like, Dan, here's your opportunity to get Dark Tower. And what you just said, Zach, is exactly what I was considering yesterday of like, how many times am I going to have... I love Dark Tower so much, but how many times am I going to have somebody over to my place to play it? Not many.
Well, I got both of them. They're real different. I mean, they're real the same in really superficial ways. They're real different. They're both real fun. They aren't the same game. I love them both. The first one I love because I can just remember listening to it turn. I had to send it away 2 times to get it repaired, right? There's a dude in Colorado who repairs original Dark Towers, and he does it for $35 plus shipping. And it's amazing.
So you have an original Dark Tower that still works now?
I do.
Holy shit. I didn't think that was a thing anymore. Why didn't anybody tell me about this?
It wasn't cheap. Right? I tried to buy one in France. What I collect now is I collect foreign edition Call of Cthulhu and Merp, and apparently I just bought some RuneQuest from Argentina. Right? But I collected those, and I'm looking for a Dark Tower in French. They made one in France. That's one of my big gets. That's how you know I have too many books, right? Is when I'm like, you know what I need? I need more books in French because I speak no French. I got Hebrew D&D, like I don't speak Hebrew, and the people I know who speak it say that because they had stuff that they made, official stuff that never came out in the U.S., right? So, but I can look at it, and I can see Hebrew letters, and I feel better about myself. I don't know, but that's why I don't have any good reason to collect it. But I have a big thing out in the living room display that my wife beautifully has allowed to invade her space that has all my French Merp collection. So Middle-earth role playing by Iron Crown Enterprise. You want to see it in French and Spanish? I'm your guy. Otherwise, no one else cares.
Now, to be curious, so I think that if I can say this on there, so I think that your wife Jen also deserves several awards, and of course she's fundamental to the business as well, right?
She is now, She and it's important. She can make nerds do stuff, and she does a very good job with that. They all listen to her. We have a team server, right? Because we're upwards of 40 people we pay on contract for various things, and they're all pretty important to the process in odd ways. And she understands that, but she's a calendar person. And her and Edwin actually are very big into, hey, we told you to have this done in 2 weeks, and, well, where is it? And I know this will shock you. Hold yourself. Some of our writers and some of our creatives, that isn't their thing. They want to make the perfect turn of phrase. They want to make their art that much better. They feel like sitting home and smoking dope more than do like drawing pictures. I mean, there are lots of reasons for it, right? And I bless them all. And some of those guys are the best. So I don't regret anything. But the fact that she can make these guys and gals, but mostly guys, the gals are pretty much on task always. The ones that work for us are amaze me. But she can get them all to do stuff almost on time. So she's like a saint. So yeah, she works for us and does a lot of logistic stuff, but she's funny because she didn't know a lick D&D. Like she couldn't tell you the difference between a D10 and D20, right? Not long ago. Now she's hardcore. She knows all the lingo and she knows all kinds of stuff, and she's an old school gal, right? I think it's just awesome.
Awesome. Jen has been extremely helpful preparing a number of shows on our channel. So big thanks. Maybe we're going to send her over a combined a D20 colored twice, just so that she's got one that's both.
We should. She needs one with a crown. She needs to be able to make sure she fills it in with a open. I was at a Gary Con one year, and you know Michael Curtis from Goodman Games. I don't know if you ever had him on before, but
had him on. Yep,
he was
love Michael.
Yeah, he opened up a bag of Gamma World dice in front of everybody at the game. They, took the old bag that had the crown and the dice inside, just opened them. I filmed him doing it, so I could send it to these collector guys like John Peterson. I got saved that just for those guys, so they could all. Not more relaxed than most of them, but some of these collector guys are awesome because I'll be honest. I have a shrink wrap machine, right? I had it for making these boxes for Whisper Venom. So I'll go shrink wrap like a 1E player's handbook that's in terrible shape. And I was like, I'll take it to, we have a joke auction in Texas, so I'll take like, here's a shrink chainmail, third print, you know, signed by Jeff Perrin, like original shrink, right? Because when you meet and hang with collector guys, these guys are awesome. They'll buy they bought Whisper Venoms that had like everything I could throw in, just everything nice I could make, sign posters. They bought it all because they collect quality stuff, right? But man, they know more about shrink wrap than any human being that doesn't shrink wrap for a living should know. They understand how they would. You'll remember this when I say it. The old module ones were trifold shrink, so they had like you could open it up the back usually by pulling it up and had a little round circle in it to make sure that it didn't bend the module when it got shrink, so it didn't hold the air in it. You could tell an original 80s shrink module for that reason. Why do I know this? Far too many people have explained it to me before. And I thought you go to enough of the auctions, you hear it, and you're told some very specific things. You're amazed. You're like, and then you meet people like, what's your favorite thing in your collection? Oh, my manuscript from Gygax's manuscript for D&D first print. I'm out. I'm out collecting because I'm not going to get better than like John Peterson's collection or Bill Meinhardt or these people that I know real well and I've seen their collections. I'm like, yeah, I just have stuff I like to read. I like to pick it up and read it. This stuff there's amazing stuff out there that people have archived our hobby because it's full. There's a lot of nerds here. And nerds like to archive and organize and tabulate and have spreadsheets on every printing there ever was at Vaults of Row, right? You want to know how many there were? They know. They don't just know. They know how to tell. And they know when one's missing a page. And they know when, it's amazing. I'm grateful for it. It's not me. Although I may own it, I can't remember what I own. That's one of my problems where I don't buy as much. I know I don't own, probably don't own it in French or Portuguese. Or I might, but I don't. I can keep track of that still. I mean, how TSR by 1998 it produced thousands of items. I can't keep track of that.
I definitely remember going to the auction at Gen Con for a couple of years and eventually bringing with me a printed out spreadsheet of the things I already owned. Because I'm like, just don't buy it again. I've already got that. Just don't buy it again.
So Paul, you do have... Paul, you have what is it that you have that was formerly owned by someone important?
Oh yeah, I have Gary's copy of Murtwig's Maze when they were auctioning off.
I have two things. I have one thing I didn't buy. I regret, but I have two things that I have. One was a copy of the Swedish gaming magazine owned by Gary. Thank you, Paul Stromberg, for the auction. I have the certificate in the back, right? So I have I got a magazine in my house, like yay us. And then I have a really nice couple things that from Tim Cass that he sold to me. And then I have what I didn't get. It only went for $80 at the auction at Gary Car. 4 was Elise Gygax's chainmail bikini from these ads that they did in Dragon. They had her chainmail bikini top. I know that's not super PC, but that would have been the most important nerd item I ever owned, right? But I'm not sure that would have passed muster. At the time, I wasn't a super capitalist in RPGs. It makes you rich, right? No, it doesn't. I'm be honest with you. But my wife beat me from here out down the road and back. If I came back with a $100 bikini top like this big, she would call me what pervert, which I would deserve probably. Elise was the one selling it. So at least I wasn't some kind of weird stalker. She was the one who was selling it. So that's the one that got away.
That's funny. Do you know who got it? Who got it?
I don't remember. Okay. I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I can roll a dice. I could probably pick one of 5. I can guess who. I'm not going. They probably don't want to be out of it, right?
That's amazing that she hung on to it. I feel like those are the kinds of things whereby, knowing people in theater or, ads or stuff like that, most of that stuff just gets chucked. That's amazing that she kept it.
God knows. I mean, I have Ernie Gygax's copy of the Titan game that has a Dave Trampere's art. I have his personal copy of that has smoke damage because he was in his house when this caught fire.
Yeah, he was.
I have stuff, but I don't have the best copy of anything or the first copy of anything. So
Ernie told us about that when we had him on for an interview at one point about his house burning down. It was like really harrowing. That's
it was harrowing. I met his roommate there, but then 4 years later, I bought his copy of Titan. So, small world.
Totally. Very much so. Hey, so I wanted to follow up on, this being, Whisper and Venom being your first OSE connected product, was that, Old School Essentials, and I can't say as I have a copy of Old School Essentials, but man, everybody that looks at it seems to love it, and a lot of our patrons are saying that they've switched their games to Old School Essentials, and people really adore it. So, is that like a big switch for you? Was that switching from Swords and Wizardry? Is that going to be noticeable to readers, or is that mostly an invisible system switch?
Well, okay, let's have some real talk here, everybody. All these clones are very, very simple. Everybody who DMs and plays old school games can very much use almost any of the other clones to use for their product. They just can. It's the attitude behind the clone and where the DM runs it that makes the biggest difference. And the BX aspect of OSE is popular because I'm just going to shock you, but they sold a lot of BX boxes back in the day, right? So there are a lot of older guys who like it, but a lot of younger people who've never seen it, never seen BX as what it was. They don't care about any of this, which is the most refreshing thing. Is going to the OSE Discord and seeing people talking about playing games and not talking about when they played games. They're talking about what they have done to play their game in their campaign, and not about the other jerks that don't like that also like these games. They care about playing the games, and that's the one thing that's really refreshing about OSE that I like. So yes, we're going to be making it. It's going to be a lot different than I expected. Mostly because we looked at it and looked at the rules and read the rules, but what I didn't realize was how invested their community is in making sure that it has the look. It's not really a trade dress. Gavin's got a philosophy that I think it's really is a layout philosophy. It's a minimalist one that I respect because it's centered around playing the game. Like, they don't care about my wonderful words that I'm cutting out of Whisper. But sad day. They care about playing the game. So the presentation on an A5 book, which is a digest-sized book that has in spreads, which means 2 pages side by side. So everything you see on the spread should be available to you on that spread. And the information should be bullet-pointed, single sentence, or called out, and like really no box text to read, which I have box text in Whisper Venom. I never expected one person to read it, not out loud, not once. I put it there as a way just to delineate what a player can see, what a GM can need to know, and then the creatures below it. So I use that box text as a call out to the difference we can see. But now it's become bullet points, right? A lovely sentence with a clever turn of phrase about this chest having inlaid gold, like chest open, right? Because that's what it is. Those are important things to know. And we have some of the setting guide and some of the fun things that I think make Whisper Venom cool. Are there, but the words part of it are not in the adventure section anymore, or very little, or we're leaving certain ones to make a nice page decoration by being on the left hand upper side of the page for description of these 3 rooms or this area. If it works, we keep it parts of it. If it doesn't, we're down to cutting maps up to make sure they fit into the relevant sections or in A5 spreads. As opposed to one map for the next 6 pages. You're probably going to see part of a map on these spreads each time you turn a page, and you'll see what they want. So is it different? Yes, in the presentation. No, in spirit. How's that?
Fascinating. It's funny because I actually go back and forth between, obviously my original D&D, digest-sized books.
No way.
Yeah, it's funny because I go back and forth between making my own stuff digest-sized or letter-sized, actually. Right. And it's nice that you can kind of print it out and you can staple it at home if you're doing it with a PDF or something like that. And then, sometimes I find it, Gary ran games with just like a loose leaf binder and stuff like that. And sometimes I find it easier to get it in that format and just slap it in a loose leaf binder. So it's kind of interesting to see you guys doubling down on the classic digest sized, actually.
Well, we are for the OSD ones because of the expectation from the fans. They may not be for every product. There may be products that are much better because of what you said. For us, the 2E Monster Manual is a living reason why we don't do anything that's rings, because they fell out. And we all hate when they fell out a lot.
Right.
No, but honestly,
totally.
We're trying to make sure that we respect the OSC audience. It was easy when we had Swords and Wizardry and Matt Finch. I mean, we respected the author because he was right there, right? Or was, he's doing his thing now, and he's doing real well with it. And he's going to Swords and Wizardry is in his hands as always should have been, right? So we're doing there's a new group of fans, and some of our old fans are going to follow us, I believe, because we're making old school style stuff. I mean, our new stuff is sort of old school style, our 5e stuff is much closer in spirit to, a 2e than it is to 4e, whatever. So it isn't that much of a stretch in terms of content. I think that's going to be fine. I think that it'll be useful to anybody. Honestly, everybody who buys from us is a good enough GM to where they can. But what I want to make sure to do is that new players know that we care about their game. We're not just showing up because they're successful, but they are successful. They are. That isn't a very big attraction as to why you would do it that way. But we weren't going to write our own. It wasn't going to change anything. And we were not going to ignore the market. And we wanted to make sure when we went in there, we didn't go in there like jerks. We went in there because we care a great deal about old school gaming, doing it in the way that they would like to see it purchased. Because ultimately, I don't get to do anything if they don't buy anything. And I want to make cool stuff. I want to make cool stuff for them and the way they want to buy it.
Makes sense. Makes sense to me.
It is hard. I'll be honest with you. You know how much harder it is to do that, to change the printing format, because that changes so many things, and like map sizes, and then there's a lot of work to work. But I think in the end, we'll be much better. We're serving the community much better with products I think they'll want to buy. We just kind of showed up in here. Here's our 8.5 by 11 one with OSE stats.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I feel like that's the first time that I've heard someone printing actually different print sizes for the two different editions. That seems like really committing to the different flavors of market that you've got.
Yeah, we did it a few times before with the Swords and Wizardry stuff when we made the box set, the stuff that would fit inside. But we're going to do it this way, and I'm not sure that everything we produce in 5e will come out in OSC, and certainly vice versa. I have thousands of creatures and spells and magic items and stuff that are great for a BX game that aren't statted up, that aren't in OSC now. We may make source books over there, maybe even PDF only stuff. We don't know. They're going to kind of help dictate the market to us and where they want to buy it, what they want to buy. But we're going to make Whisper and Venom the very best OSC long form module, of which there aren't any right now. I know that are long. The ones that will work in it. I don't know any that are released long form and designed around their principles that aren't just 28 or 48 pages digested. Whisper will probably be well over 200 pages digested.
Wow.
Especially because it's going to be, if we're going to save any of the other appendix material, that's going to be, we'll push back a lot of the writing to the appendix or forward to the settings section. The adventure section itself is easily going to be over 100 pages to digest. And it takes a whole different philosophy. So we had the same lady probably lay it out. And she's from French Canada, and she's really incredible. She has done new work for us, and she wanted to try it in the A5 real bad. So I'm like, okay, well, you can do both. Congratulations. You can try them both.
Awesome.
I'm real excited about that.
Now, I see that Whisper and Venom is already super successful on Kickstarter, and we've got a link to your Kickstarter in the description to our YouTube event here that people should click on and look at. So it's already funded. You've already ticked off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different stretch goals. You've added character sheets and player maps and a bunch of miniatures and stuff like that. And I see that you're just on the cusp of unlocking another miniature, and then after that, you can hopefully we're going to unlock the your spectacular Knoll PC, who's French flavored, Mazur Mange, which I adore. I love Knoll, so I'm really hoping you unlock that.
Well, yeah, no, that character he originally showed up in the Death and Taxes book. I liked him so much. I had a good idea for his use in Whisper and Venom, but he's not really that. He's French by costume, but what he is he was injured basically by an anvil, like Wile E. Coyote. But so he was befriended by somebody because he basically no longer had any capacity to do much but sit. So they made him into like an intellectual that everybody was impressed by because he never said anything. So that people would project onto him all their deep thoughts, and they would think he was agreeing, right? And so all he ever said was "we" in French, like, what do you think of this? No, we. So it's about the story came down about people projecting their own values onto somebody who had nothing to say. He basically was like Black County, but he dressed really nice. I have some really great photo images of him, and the new ones I just got yesterday are awesome. But no, he's not making really an important point, but he's making a point about shallow nature of people. But he also has a good hook for an adventure. I wanted to use him in a Whisper and Venom, and I wanted to bring him up. And I have the figurine for him. That one will come out pretty quickly, and he's awesome. So yes, he's one of my favorite ones I wrote because he was. It was very easy to make a statement using him, and especially given everything else, without insulting everybody, because every side has that fake intellectual or fake, prophet, right? And this guy was just happened to be a Knoll who got dressed up real nice, and that was enough to fool everybody because they wanted to be fooled. Right? So yeah, that's where that comes from.
That's a great piece of business. I love that. I generally love Knolls. For some reason, among my miniature collection, my Knoll miniatures are just my flat out favorites. And I had someone who played D&D with me for the very first time, and up until that point, she had known me as like, oh, he's a very quiet, reserved person. And then I have to go into full-on Knoll hysterical, laughter-threatening violence mode, and she was like, "This is." I think Dan's having like a disassociative episode right now. So I was delighted to bring the Knoll to the table. Yeah,
I think Knolls are awesome. They're underappreciated in the entire micro universe of the Whisper and Venom and the Death and Taxes that Edwin and I worked on. Knolls were an important ancient race that actually were full of civilization and everything else, and were kind of betrayed, and so they became the best barbarians ever on purpose. Right? We had them like having like an old style calculating machines and all kinds of stuff in their ancient history, which they gave up for vengeance, and they became just awesome. Plus, they bark.
Absolutely, right? Right. I mean, Paul kind of relied on Knolls a bit in an adventure that he wrote with R.A. Salvatore actually a little while ago. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, it's true, and I think also leaned on that notion of Knolls having previously had a higher level of civilization and kind of degenerating over time, which I really enjoy.
Oh, they should. They look
kind of Egyptian themed.
It's a nice twist.
And that's why the patina. I think of the fancy clothes on the Knoll and make it so awesome.
Yeah. Paul, remind me what the name's escaping me of that adventure. What's the name of that again?
That adventure was called the Vile. I try to remember it myself. It was R.A. Salvatore presents the Vile Crypt of the Reawakened Sisterhood.
Right.
Yeah, which is so the creation of which was sort of spawned our own series on this show of what we now call the Dungeon Design Dash, where we try to populate an entire dungeon in an hour, which is foolish.
So folks can look for that. Still on Drive-Thru-RPG. People should look for that. I feel like that's a title that probably came from Matt Fitch's Tome of Adventure. Is that?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. One of my
favorite
things in the world.
Cool. One thing I noticed, Zach, is that you're making your miniatures in what I consider classic scale. Like as a math guy, I'm just psycho about what's the scale of the miniatures and the maps and stuff like that. So I see that you're still making stuff 28 millimeters, and I feel like hasn't like Wizards like bulked up? Like I find that the Wizards miniatures are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger over the time, that they don't fit with classic stuff. Are you finding that or not?
Probably I made what I know, man. What I knew about miniatures was way less than I know now. I'll tell you that. And what I knew about when I decided to make a miniature, my goal was to make one miniature to go with it. So it would be, and it was not a lot more than one I'm making. And I learned about sculpting, and this is all done by a company named Valiant Enterprises in Wisconsin. And they walked me through how to make about 60 of them total I made. And these are the best of those that I can respin and put into a pack, and I can expand them. And, so as we unlock more, the same money you pay for a pack of miniatures is going to get you more miniatures, because once the logistics is figured out, I can add those. They make nice stretch goals, and I don't mind, having the margin shrink a little bit on the miniatures pack to give more out, because I think it's a cool way to do it. And miniatures look nice and they're fun. But these are all the old-fashioned way. They're all done the old-fashioned way in pewter. They aren't real lead, so they won't poison you. Maybe. No, they won't poison you, and they come out really nice, and they paint real well. And I picked the best of them. Some of the ones that I made originally were, junior excitement. Like, this is awesome. It's got 7 legs and did all this there. They don't make good miniatures that have 7 legs and all these miniatures. I learned this. So a couple of the miniatures didn't make it, but the rest of them really were nice. And like good sculptors did them. The people who were still painting professionally painted them for pictures and stuff. So, yeah. 28 millimeter.
Zach, as an old school guy, I find that the game just gets nerfed and it gets gentler and gentler over time. And as a gatekeepy old school guy, having non-poisonous miniatures is just like it's not like it used to be.
You don't weed out the dumb people as much from the hobby that way. I miss being able. We certainly would weed out the non-players who put in their mouths, like young kids and stuff. It's amazing we survived childhood. Looking back, I mean, we didn't wear seatbelts when I was a kid. I mean, I don't even know if they had seatbelts in every car I got in. Right? We all these things that we would do that would horrify all good parents today for good reason. Right? But having 50 things made out of lead that I would paint and lick the brush, and paint on the lead, and put it back in my mouth with lead on it, and I'm still alive. It's amazing. My mother should be proud that I made it this far.
I still have all my digits, even, which is mostly all straight, which is impressive. I got two other things. I want to point out before we run out of before you have to go, Zach. One is that there's a possibility that Jen, your wife, is going to send me your Dark Tower copy, and I appreciate that, Zach.
Yeah, that's
I appreciate
nice
the Glazer household committing to that. That's really kind of you, Zach. And when I have your working copy of Dark Tower, I'm going to play the heck out of it.
That's fine with me. I'll just upgrade it. I get you, wife.
Now, the other thing that I'll point out is
it's awesome because you get you guys all set up. You think she's all great. That you can see right there where there's trouble.
She's great to us. I mean, she's 100% great to us, Zach.
Well, yeah, because she's giving you my stuff. She's so magnanimous. Generous.
So the other thing is I saw on the Frog God website under the who we are, I saw that that you swallowed a Boba Fett backpack missile as a kid.
No, the Battlestar Galactica one, because they didn't make a fire and Boba Fett missile because I was one of the 6 kids who swallowed the Battlestar Galactica shooting missiles from the 1979 toy set. That was me. You ever want a Boba Fett that did not fire that missile, and you're disappointed, I'm one of the 6 people you can blame.
That was I do blame you, Zach, because up until that point, I really enjoyed my Shogun Warriors miniatures that would shoot stuff, right, and all that. And there became a particular point where nothing shot anything properly anymore.
I can totally show it to you. I have it on my shelf. I have one of them there just for to remind me that that I could have been dead because some poor kids did die. And I laugh at it because it's amusing to me, but there were 3 kids who actually died from it because, they were this big and they really weren't a good warning. I mean, they were small. But I am right now glad I did this. For all you people who wanted this shooting Boba Fett and that treat me badly at conventions, that was for you. That Tom Tellis of Fat Dragon Games, he bitches every time I talk to him about the Boba Fett thing. I'm like, well, too bad. I'm happy. Screw you, Tom Tellis. That's right. No, but yeah, that was me. I admit it. I had to come clean about that. But I was worried for a while people would find that out without me saying it first, because I think that would cause a lot of angry Star Wars fans, and I don't want that. I've seen angry Star Wars fans the last few years. I don't like them.
So the follow-up question I have, of course, is do you still have the missile, and is it in original shrink?
I don't have that one, but I do have it in the original box. And I had one time someone sent me I got someone to send me the missiles like the. You remember the movie The Insider, when they had to open the mailbox, there's a bullet inside. I opened an envelope one time, and there had two of the missiles from Battlestar Galactica inside. Someone had purchased on eBay and then sent to me like a warning. So there's no return address, no note. It was like, okay, it's going to be one of many people. I blamed Skeeter Green. That was my first blame, but I mean, it could have been my wife, as you can see now. There are, unfortunately, a larger number of people who would threaten that to me than I would care to admit. Yeah, that's true.
It's like Nerd Godfather. It's like Nerd Godfather. It's like
I'm the one's gonna wake up with a horse head in my bed, right? Like a dragon head, one of those watchy trophy heads. I'll turn around and it'll be right there. Yeah.
Send that guy some Battlestar Galactica missiles. He'll know what. He'll get the message.
Yeah. Well, he'll know what to do. Like you want to get paid faster? Send me those, and I'll be right on it. Right? Yeah.
Let me. I got a really good question from Paul Catrone. You can probably answer pretty quickly. That I thought was good. So Paul was asking Zach, are there any plans for a Death and Taxes port to Old School Essentials? Is that on your calendar?
You know what? It probably until this one had done. This is done. I'll be frank with you. In OSC, this is done fantastic. In OSC, we didn't know what to expect. We had no idea. We had no idea how our fans who were Swords of Wizardry fans would take the change. We had no idea how people who were into OSC would not. Like, those frauds coming here just trying to exploit us. Like, we didn't know. And so we had a setting where, on the Kickstarter, where if we didn't sell 200 copies of the OSC, we're going to have to print on demand because there's all kinds of reasons that involve supply chains, etc. But man, they blew past that. And for a while, we sold more OSC than 5e for a while. So the chance of it coming to, it might actually come to OSC only. To be honest with you, I don't know. But Death and Taxes, the chances have gone up. Yes, and that's a different kind of. Whisper and Venom is an old-fashioned adventure all through. We've got dungeons and evil stuff everywhere, and a little town like Homeland. Not like Homeland, but gets a kind of feel of the early adventure stuff. Death and Taxes is a lot more of it's just a psychological haul. It's a lot more to do with what happens when there's no government, what happens, how people treat each other, and the deprivations people go through when governments collapse. And just it's a lot more history stuff involved. And so it's a harder one to translate to OSC, I think, because of the bullet point nature of it. However, because I'm so willing to toss aside what I wrote to make sure it matches the system, I think we can get a good portion of it in. So that's a possibility. Edwin wants to do it for sure, and so Edwin co-wrote that one with me. So if he's on board, he'll probably make me.
Cool. So look forward to that. I'm glad Paul asked about that. Actually, awesome.
Me too.
So we are just about out of time here, Zach. Is there anything about Whisper and Venom that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure we get out to all our viewers?
What I want to say that is, first of all, thank you to everybody who has backed it, because I didn't know what to expect. It was 10 years old. I'm really proud of it. I think it's a great adventure. I think it was worthy of getting trounced by Paizo at the Ennies. I was against Paizo and WizKids, and so I didn't have any. There's no illusions I was going to be the underdog of that one, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I'm out. But it is good. I think people will quite like it. I think it's going to be really nice in OSC. If you're an OSC fan, give us a shot. We really want to make stuff the way you want to play it. And we have guys on staff who haven't been excited about something as much as they are about OSC. So I think you'll be pleased, and we have lots of plans for it in the future. So, and I always love your guys' show. I watch it when we have other people on it. Pleasure to be on it, man.
Awesome. That's the best.
Well, the best is when you had your early video that I know those guys, and they were on this show. I'm glad I could be on here too. Like, I know him. I had dinner with him. It was great.
We feel the same way.
Yeah,
we watch our own trailer, and we feel the same way.
I bet. That's how I feel when I go places. The map you see on the screen right now was done by Alyssa Faden. It was one of her first professional maps. So I hired her, and I was never been sorry because she's awesome. So we have good people that were involved with Wizard all the way through. So I think that it will be the kind of thing you like. And the better the book does, the better I can make the book when it comes out. Like, I would love to make sure the OSC versions have a jacket, like a dust jacket. It comes off and the map print on the inside of the dust jacket. So that's a really great way to do an A5 book, right? Those kinds of things are possible if you give it support. So if you have the opportunity and you care about seeing stuff that you think will work for OSC for your game and for 5e, because it really does translate well to 5e with a lot more of the words tagged. So the spirit is there in OSC, but it's designed to be played by that game. If you 5e, I think it's a great adventure. And we have, like, if you're into collectibles, I made 3 adventures that were done exactly like old TSR style, with a gatefold cover with the right kind of blue. I even found the right kind of blue color by CMYK number on the inside. We're reprinting 3 of those of the 4 that I made. We're reprinting 3 of those for Whisper and Venom. They aren't cheap because they aren't cheap to make, but we're doing that. So we have all kinds of things there for all kinds of people. And if you enjoy, I think, old-fashioned adventures that are deadly but not stupid deadly, this is not the Tomb of Horrors. Sorry, it's a professional problem. Get all your names mixed up for it. It's not the Tomb of Horrors because it's not going to kill you by design, but it is not a simple one to play. So I think you're going to like it.
Perfect. Awesome. Perfect. Love it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, viewers, if you want to check out the Kickstarter link, it is here in the description, the text description of the YouTube video. Go check it out. Maybe place a pledge, help us push past that last or the current stretch goal. See if we can get that Monsieur Mange. Awesome.
Yep. He's intellectual. He'll talk about anything you want as long as he doesn't say anything.
That's great. And remember that you can, of course, like, follow, and subscribe to us, the Wandering DMs. We're on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook and GitHub and TikTok. And we do have the handle Wandering DMs on all of the sites. So look for this there, and you'll get updates on upcoming shows and guests.
You can play your new Dark Tower when it comes in. Yeah, I'm laughing.
It's on the docket. It's on the calendar.
Only if I can play too. Okay, I'll play remotely. Thank you, gentlemen.
If you prefer to listen to our show in the audio-only podcast format, you can find those files on our website at wanderingdms.com. You can also find them on various third-party carriers such as iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, many other sites similar. If you are listening to this show right now on one of those sites, please take a moment to rate and review us on that site. That helps other users of that site find us, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do. And of course, huge thanks to our patrons who support the Wandering DM show. If you're in a position where you'd like to join them, please do visit patreon.com/wanderingdms. You see, we got a couple different tiers there. You get discounts on merch, monthly behind-the-scenes stuff we try to do, and access to our Discord server. We're always continuing the conversation with our wonderful patrons, including live video after-party chat that we have every Sunday right after the show. So we'll be there in about 10 minutes. I will be there. Paul will be there today. Right, Paul? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. So if you have other thoughts about Whisper or Venom or 80s adventures or miniatures, we would love to continue the conversation with you at that point. Look for upcoming shows this week. Zach earlier mentioned, there's classic gold box miniatures, and there's also classic gold box AD&D video games. And I'm currently, for the first time ever, trying to burn my way through the very first gold box video game, Pool of Radiance, Thursday nights. Yeah.
What are you playing? What system are you playing it on? You playing it on a PC?
I'm on PC. They just added it to Steam a couple months ago, so I'm actually playing it through Steam, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
I got I got an Amiga emulator, and I've got it on Steam because the other thing I do is collect vintage computer systems. So I have older computers that I mess with because I don't have enough stupid things. I have to add that to it.
So we might have to have Zach back on another time just to talk about his whole video game obsession to join in with us.
Good for you on Full Radiance, man. Keep going on. It's one of my favorite. I have Steve Winter and Jim Ward sign my copy. I love it. My prized possession.
Nice.
Other half my child.
That's the best.
It's super fun watching Dan bumble through it, having never played it before. Maybe eventually going to get out of the slums, Dan. Maybe.
I've gotten past the slums, Paul. I've gotten that. It only took me like 8 weeks.
You have to use the wheel still to get into the game?
Absolutely, I use the code wheel. I got it
one, right
here, Zach. Right there.
That's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do everything old school.
That's right. Well, I'm proud of you.
On the code wheel.
We can still be friends now.
Agreed.
Allow me to keep holding up. So,
Zach, thank you so much for making time out of your day this week. Continued best of luck with the Whisper and Venom Kickstarter. So glad you could join us.
A pleasure. It really is. So.
Awesome. So don't forget, we are live Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So we do hope that the next show you will join us again for another thought-provoking discussion.
We'll see you then.